I would like to talk to you about the practicality of the term political Islam. The background. On September 11, 2001, when the World Trade Towers were attacked, no one in America really understood much about Islam. And I could see that we were going to need solutions based on knowledge. Now, most people think that Islam is just a religion, and religions are difficult to talk about, particularly in public discussions. But we can talk about politics. Let's talk a little bit about Islam. It's not merely a religion based on the Quran. It is a complete way of life, a complete civilization. To understand Islam, we have to understand Muhammad, and briefly his career is like this. He preached the religion of Islam for 13 years in Mecca, but only converted 150 people. He went to Medina, and in Medina became a politician and a jihadist. So therefore his career divides itself up into religion and politics. What is political Islam? I define it to be that part of Islamic doctrine which impacts the kafir. Who's the kafir? The non-believer, the infidel. So political Islam is the Islam that impacts us. The religious Islam is that which achieves paradise and avoids hell. An interesting thing about Islamic doctrine found in the Quran, the Sirah and the Hadith, which is over half of it, 51%, deals with the kafir. So that is the part of Islam that deals with what I call politics. When we open a Sharia text, such as Reliance of the Traveler, we find that scholars in Islam divide the book into religion, which are the 5 pillars you can see here, and the rest of it deals with such things as business law, family law, justice. So Islamic scholars have always divided Islamic knowledge up into political and other. Now, we need to understand this about the Sharia. If the Sharia contradicts our politics and legal system, then the Sharia trumps. That is, it is more powerful than ours. This is difficult for us to understand, but that is the view of Islam. Religious Islam is the non-political Islam, which is the 5 pillars, the Shahada, the Zakat, fasting, going to Mecca and praying 5 times a day. There's a 6th pillar, Jihad, and it is political as well. Let's look at some examples of political and religious Islam. Let's take prayer. Surely that is purely religious. Well, it can be, but in the United States and in Europe, sometimes Muslims commandeer the street and pray outside in public. That commandeering the street is political, not religious. September 11, 2001, the jihad attack was a political action with a religious motivation. All jihad is political with a religious foundation. In the Sharia, Islamic law, wife beating is permissible. Therefore, it's part of their family law. But we need to understand this. It violates our laws, and our leaders need to be understanding of the fact that some things which may be legal in Islam is illegal in ours. Is polygamy political or religious? Well, it can be religious, but if you try to practice it in the United States, it is political because it violates our laws. It has a political impact. Dietary rules, such as halal food, can violate our rules like this. I don't care what a Muslim eats, whether it's pork or not pork, that is, whether it's haram or halal. But here's how it's beginning to impact us. We see in some school districts that foods such as marshmallows are forbidden to be brought in. Why? Well, they contain gelatin, which has pork, and so therefore it violates the food laws of Islam. This is impacting on our system and our laws. Retribution, for instance, is a legal right within the Sharia, but retribution violates the United States laws. Now then, we don't need to deal with religious Islam. What do I care if a Muslim prays once a day or 5 times a day? I don't care. I don't care if they pray facing Mecca or Paris. I only care about what impacts me. If our leaders gain knowledge about political Islam, it will help them pose solutions. Before you give a solution to a problem, you need to understand the problem in depth. And therefore, we need to understand the totality of Islam, both religious and political. We need to see the small parts of Islam, but we also need to understand the larger view, which is it's religious and political. There are pros and cons for all issues, and our leaders need to know the difference between political Islam and religious Islam so they don't become confused. All we care about Islam is what impacts us. In the end, there's only Islam found in Quran, Sirah, Hadith. But I found that once you can parse Islam into religious and political, you can begin to think more clearly. We're involved in a 1400-year war, which is an ideological war. We will never defeat an enemy if we don't know who they are and how they think. So therefore, we need to educate ourselves as fast as possible, and political Islam helps us to do that. Thank you.